At the moment is immediate and the short-run problem. One, the problem of meeting the sudden sharp rise that has taken place in oil prices and has imposed severe strain on our balance of payments, and also these problems of substitution which I was mentioning. So all this combined with drought resulting in food shortages has made the economic situation rather complex. So therefore, just as the economic difficulties are many-sided and complex, therefore the attack on this problem has also to be many-sided.
Doing about it?
Well, looking upon inflation as the main problem, the government has taken certain measures to combat inflation. Well, the impact of this program so far is not marked. Therefore, the government is in the process of evolving further measures to combat this price rise, which is taking rather serious proportion.
There is a widespread belief that the economic crisis, the food shortages, the high prices, and the widespread political unrest are due to mismanagement. What is your comment?
Well, this will be a rather simplistic judgment. Obviously, the fourfold increase in oil prices cannot be attributed to Indian mismanagement or severe drought which hit the country in 72, 73, 73, 74 cannot be the result of mismanagement. Although one can always say that given certain difficulties, a thing could have been managed much better. Well, I'll not say that there isn't room for improvement. So in that sense, there can be an element of mismanagement. But to make a global, definitive, and categorical statement that all this is the result of mismanagement is, to my mind, explaining a complicated phenomena in terms of a small factor which is not only small but belongs to the second order of smalls. At it in terms of the short-run solution and the long-run solution. Short-run, we have partly tried to reduce the imports of petroleum products, but unfortunately, we don't have many frills to cut. There is no sort of Sunday driving in India which you can say that people can cut down. Most of our oil imports are essential imports, so we have not really been able to cut it down as much as the price rise warrants. In the case of gasoline, we have really cut it down sharply. We have reduced the consumption by 30%. So partly it is reduction in the imports, partly it is to convert some of the oil-based industry to coal-based industry. But from the long-term point of view, we are trying to increase as fast as possible our coal output, because we want to substitute coal which we have in sufficient quantities for oil wherever it is technologically possible. Development programs have been formulated, and it has been suggested that it should be possible for us to increase our coal output by about 50 million tons in a relatively short period. And then we are also now making a very vigorous attempt to find oil both inshore and offshore. Well, there is evidence about the possibility of oil offshore and inshore, but it is relatively a long drawn out process. We have some evidence that Bombay High is going to yield some crude, though it is very difficult at the moment to quantify it. So our own feeling is that in the long run, it will be all right. But as Keynes once said, in the long run, we'll all be dead. So at the moment, we are more preoccupied with the short. Our program for control of to get hold of the situation has to go through several stages. We have first to have some kind of a cooling off period, a stabilization period, and then let the economy move on a rising curve, on a growth path.
Thank you, sir. Run it. Somewhere along the line.
I see.
And then, Mr. Dhar, what is India's reaction to the great outcry about the nuclear explosion?
Well, it's partly understandable and partly misconceived. It's understandable in the sense that proliferation of nuclear arms is a horrifying prospect. But it is misconceived because India is not going for nuclear arms. And along with the announcement that this device had been detonated, Government of India made a solemn statement that India was going to use this only for peaceful purposes.
Was it really necessary?
Well, I don't really understand what that means. This was an exercise in research and development. And a research program has its own momentum, is its own scheme. So it has its own point at which several things have to happen. So I don't quite understand what it means. It has to be taken in the context of an evolving research program. So at some point of time, scientists have what they say to do science, and they did it.
Can you convince the world and Pakistan that the intention is only peaceful?
Well, we have made statements at the highest possible level, giving in detail why India did it, what India's intentions are. I suppose it's for the world to make up its mind, and many people have accepted what India has said, and I suppose many others will in course of time. Now, with regard to Pakistan, I'm not quite sure that I understand Pakistan's reaction correctly. India has repeatedly offered Pakistan, even before this event of May 18, a no-war pact. Pakistan has spurned it. To be quite frank, I have a suspicion that the rulers of Pakistan like this thing to have happened, because the way they are making speeches and the way they are going about it gives one the feeling that they are making good use of it for their own domestic purposes.
Can you convince the world and Pakistan that the intention is only peaceful?
Well, many countries in the world have already congratulated us and have appreciated that India has been able to make this technological effort. There have been some countries which were a little critical, but even these countries are gradually coming around to the view that India's intentions are in fact peaceful. The Canadian Foreign Minister, Mr. Sharp, who was very critical of India on this account, has himself now said that he has no reason why he should not accept this statement made by the Prime Minister of India. Now, with regard to Pakistan, quite frankly, I am not sure if Pakistan wants to be convinced. Assurances have been given to Pakistan by the Prime Minister of India. Prime Minister wrote a letter to Prime Minister Bhutto, and the reply which we got for that letter was not exactly positive or helpful. And in fact, one gets the feeling that Pakistan likes it this way because it can be used for domestic political purposes. Nevertheless, it will be the effort of Government of India to do everything possible to see that the normalization process, which has been going on in the subcontinent for a while, and for which India has taken repeated initiatives, continues. Will strive every now and make every effort to see that this process of normalization is complete and full. Well, we hope after a while Pakistan will see reason and will cooperate in this effort, because it is in the best interest of the subcontinent, of all the countries of the subcontinent, as much in the interest of India as in the interest of Pakistan.
Mr. Dhar, what is India's reaction? Mr. Dhar, what is India's reaction to the great outcry about the nuclear explosion? Mr. Dhar, what is India's reaction to the great outcry about the nuclear explosion? Was it really necessary? Can you convince the world and Pakistan that the intention is only peaceful? How do you assess the economic crisis that India faces? What is the government doing about it? There is a widespread belief that the economic crisis, the food shortages, the high prices, and the widespread political unrest are due to mismanagement. What is your comment? Okay. There is a widespread belief that the economic